guest host, Steve Project. Joining me all the way from Spartan land, MSU Spartans wire, Robert Bondy. Welcome into the show.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Where are you located?
Just actually, ironically, just north of Ann Arbor, in Wolverines country. I'm originally from Ann Arbor, but I'm now in Whitmore Lake, if you know where that is, just north
Sure, that's okay. Gotta stay close to the enemy. Close to
yes,
enemy intel, and you're covering Michigan State. I just posted something today on the Sports Project Facebook and Twitter page of look who creeped up into the top 10 of the national rankings out of the AP today. It's our Michigan State Spartans in the top 10, with Michigan, I believe, at number 3. Does that surprise you?
No, not at all. I mean, I think both teams coming into the year were, expected to be Big Ten contenders. I think Michigan had a lot of attention around the big name transfer portal pickups they had, and obviously I think came into the year, I believe, ranked, in that top 5 in the preseason. Michigan State not so high. I believe they were more in the teens, and I think have been, exceeding expectations coming into the year. But with what we've seen, after the fast start and really continued success since then, they, look like a top 10 team. There's obviously some areas that they can improve, and there's maybe some flaws in their game that could prevent them potentially from being a elite, true championship contender. But, they do the one thing really well that, they say you need to win championships, and that's play defense. So, I'm not surprised to see both teams in the top 10. I would be probably surprised if we don't see them, if we see them not in the top 10, or at least not floating around the top 10 by the time we hit March, because they've both proven to this point in the year that, they belong, and they are going to probably stay there.
Yeah, and it's such a long season, and Izzo is always, it's not how you start. He's not afraid to lose games early. He's not afraid to play tough games early, and Michigan had a pretty decent schedule so far and prevailed for the most part. So I can't wait for the build-up when those two, when do they meet, in like late January here?
Yeah, so it'll be a week from Friday, I believe. I know we're already, to the back half of January, and it's that either the last day in January, but I know it's next Friday. Michigan State will host them first, and then they play in Ann Arbor at Chrysler in, I think, the season finale, that final Sunday of the regular season. So it's as you said, building up to what should be a top 10 game next week. I think both Michigan and Michigan State have schedules ahead of them next few games ahead of that matchup that should lean towards victories from how both teams have been playing, and we could be seeing maybe even a top 5 battle, depending on how the rest of the rankings shake out, ahead of next week's showdown.
I don't even think either of them are in the top of the Big Ten right now, are they?
Well, that's true. And Nebraska, I think, is your top team, and Purdue's up there too. I'm not sure Purdue's lost a game yet as far as Big Ten standings go. So it's a loaded Big Ten, and Illinois is, I think, right outside. Going back to that AP Top 25 poll you referenced a moment ago, I think there's only 5 Big Ten teams I want to say that are ranked at the moment, but all of them are in the top 11. So it's clear right now that while the Big Ten is still, I think, a very deep conference, there are some really top-of-the-line teams towards the top of the league.
So Izzo seems to hit not home runs on the portal, but seems to hit good chemistry guys in the portal, that he goes team first as opposed to star first, and it works over the long haul, but he's also point guard driven. And, man, Jeremy Fears has stepped up and become one of the best and we've had a lot of good ones, and he's now in that conversation.
He really is. And when he came in, he was a McDonald's All-American, so I think expectations clearly were high on him as a 5-star prospect, but I don't know if anyone saw this kind of jump this year from him. He's always been very good at managing the offense, dishing out the assists. I think he's, always been one of the top assists, at least last year and then this year, one of the top assist guys in the Big Ten, and low turnovers too. So it's a great assist to turnover ratio. But what we've really seen this season is the progression of his full offensive game by actually, putting the ball in the hoop, right? So there's still, I think, some areas he needs to improve when you talk about maybe his jump shot or his 3-point shot. But the way he gets to the rim, the way he can draw fouls, and just the way he can, on top of facilitating for his teammates, but also put the ball in the hoop, has made Michigan State, a better team than I think anyone expected, or at least I personally expected coming into the year.
And he's coming off the injury, folks. A couple years ago, or a year and a half ago, he was shot in the leg. That affected, took away a half a season for him.
Yeah.
And so he's recovered. And it is his brother who was coming to State who ended up going NBA?
It was his brother. Yes, he was in the full. I think he was at one point committed to Illinois. Michigan State was certainly in the hunt for him as well. I think he ended up at Oklahoma because he reclassified and then was a lottery pick. So he was really good too. So the basketball gene is certainly in that family. And I'm glad you called out the injury he did go through, because even last year, I believe I heard in the offseason or read in the offseason that he had said, it wasn't really till the end of last year that he finally felt like, he was getting his jump back or his step back, because, that's an injury that, while it did happen, a year and a half ago or maybe 2 years ago now, that's something that they took away half a season, but also, did have a follow-up of, having to get back to full strength.
Yeah, I think he got shot. Was it in the calf? I mean, it's a serious basketball injury, because the calf is your jumping muscle, and he's back. That's the good news.
Yeah.
So he's recovered. One of the cool things I've watched lately, and I'm watching from afar here in Grand Rapids, and watch it mostly on TV on the Big Ten Network and obviously on social media. But this back and forth with Jackson Kohler and Izzo is really phenomenal, and Izzo sort of embraces it when they get into arguments. And I don't know if they're arguments. They're probably not. They're spirited conversations about what the responsibilities are. And you know what? It's working. That's what's cool about it. And Izzo seems to be okay with it. Usually Izzo's 70-something years old. Don't talk back to me would probably be in his generation. But no, he likes the communicators. You talked about it this week about kids talking and communicating on the floor. This is part of that, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And I think that it all kind of goes full circle with the way he handles the transfer portal, as you said, kind of bringing in players. But ultimately, he likes to roll with his guys, right? And because of that, you have a guy like Jackson Kohler who's been in the program for 4 years. He is a senior. He's earned that ability, right, and that respect from Izzo to have a conversation, not just, you're going to listen to me, but I also am going to dish it back to you. And you can tell that, that's what kind of makes Tom special, right? And I'm not saying other coaches don't do that too, but it's a lot different when you have a guy who's been in your program, who knows you in and out, on both sides of it, versus, a guy who's been there for, 6 months or whenever he came in from the portal. And you'll see that. I mean, over the years, it's been the same with other, Michigan State greats. I know Draymond Green always comes to mind, and the way those have a great relationship. But, it's Kohler. I've seen Fears this year, get into it with him as well. And it's obviously out of love and respect. And, they trust each other, because Izzo wouldn't let it fly if maybe a new face came in and did that right away.
Well, he's trying to get a reaction out of them. He's trying to get them to come out of, the big complaint about today's kids on these college rosters is they don't want to talk and don't want to communicate, and he's not allowing that, and so this is part of the process. It's not a negative like you would think with this banner back and forth with off the bench. Who's been the biggest surprise for you off the bench for this Michigan State Spartan team?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's honestly changed week to week, it feels like, because Jordan Scott, the incoming freshman, had his moments. We also saw a lot from Cam Ward early in the year. He single-handedly probably won them that game against Arkansas early in the season. And then in recent weeks, he's been getting some good production from Kurt Tang. So they have a number of guys that coming into the season, you maybe thought, hey, they could be a starter, or maybe they could, become one of their reliable guys. But we just hadn't really seen it yet from a number of them, at least consistently. And now it's kind of, who's it going to be this game? Who's it going to be in the next game? And right now, I would say Kurt Tang's that guy at the number 2, the shooting guard. I wouldn't be shocked if he's, works his way back in the starting lineup with how well he's been playing lately. But right now, he's probably that guy. But there's been a lot of them. I mean, they really do go anywhere from, 8 to 10 deep as far as guys that can play and guys that can rely on. Obviously, it varies game to game. We're seeing, Trey Ford, for instance, isn't playing as much right now. That was one of their big transfer portal additions this offseason. And but at the same time, though, I wouldn't be shocked if, come March, he's that guy that's hitting the threes out of the corner that could, win a game in the tournament.
The other thing, Jesse McCullough, and this is for our Spartan fans out there. In our radio station covers Greater Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo. Jesse McCullough, 6'11", 245-pound freshman out of Cleveland, Ohio, getting playing time off the bench. He's going to be a factor somewhere in here. They're going 12 deep right now. Who else has been sort of unsung, who's getting some run here? Not star player, but a real viable sub is Wojcik's kid, the point guard, Denim Wojcik, 6'3" senior point guard. They're able to get Fears out of there and get him some, off the court, get him some rest. And Wojcik comes in, and he has Izzo's trust. That's one of the assistant coach's kids.
Yeah, and I think he was brought in the off season as he was a transfer portal. I want to say he came from Harvard. I know it was an Ivy League school. I'm almost certain it was from Harvard. And I think coming into the year, they probably didn't expect him to play as much as he's been playing. But with the way that they've kind of had to juggle around that shooting guard spot, with Divine Ujane, having to really step up. He was the backup point guard they originally brought in to, spell Fears, and he's been having to play in that shooting guard spot. So with them kind of trying to work through who's going to be the starting shooting guard, that's obviously trickled down to now, Wojcik's going to have to be playing more. So, he's had some up and downs, but at the same time, I think the last few games, he's actually started to put some good minutes out there. Oh, yeah. And, you're not asking much from him, right? You need probably 5 minutes per game, just so he can't run Fears out there all 40. But you know what you're getting with Fears playing most of the game, so you can get 4 to 5 out of him that are solid minutes, and can weather the storm per se. And Fears go off the floor for a bit. That's all you need.
Obviously, he's a smart player. He's not going to turn the ball over. He's going to get them into their offenses. He's going to play defense, and so that's a safe bet there. So Divine, how do you pronounce his last name?
I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I believe it's Uvitshane, but I'm not a good pronunciation with names myself.
Let's call him Divine. Then we'll just call. He's starting. Yeah. He's averaging 5 points a game, and Izzo sees something in there. We don't see it in the numbers too heavy. 6'3" sophomore out of Sugar Land, Texas. Have you ever seen a basketball player wear number 99? That's Wayne Gretzky's number.
I know, right? I know. I thought that was wild too when he came in. I was surprised by that.
I didn't even know they made a uniform on the Spartan roster with that high of a number. I've never seen it. Never. He may be the first. I'm sure I could fact check that to confirm, but I would be very surprised if there's been anyone in the 90s, let alone 99. So what do you think? How do you see this Big Ten unfolding? Because Purdue's getting all the publicity, and then you got Illinois. Illinois is really good, and they play tough defense. And then you got Michigan State. How do you see this thing? I mean, how many losses will there be in Big Ten play for the champion, do you think?
Ooh, that's a good question. It's hard to really know because of the way the Big Ten now is really 18 teams, and the schedules can be so different in quality and challenges. But you have really 5 teams at the top there, and even Wisconsin has been playing pretty well lately too. That could be in the mix to win it. I would say it's probably going to be somewhere along like what Michigan State, I think last year was 17-3. I wouldn't be surprised if we see like that again, 17-3 or 16-4, because quite frankly, I find it hard to picture Purdue or Michigan losing more than 3 games. And again, it's going to be one of those situations where, and Nebraska too for that matter. I mean, Nebraska's been great so far this year, but it's going to be tough to see those teams lose the amount of games because sure you may lose a road game, but it's going to be tough to beat Michigan, 3 times this year. It's going to be tough to beat Purdue 3 times this year. So I would say it's going to be somewhere in that, probably 16-4 might get you a share of it if we have a split the top, maybe a 17-3 like we saw from Michigan State last year wins it. My read is I still think Michigan's been, I know they've been kind of looking a little more, I'll say, human, less Superman type team the last few games, and I think they've actually started to not win every game by 40. but they still look like a pretty darn good team. They're just very well rounded. But if it's me, if I had to pick, I'd say either Michigan or Purdue is probably my pick at the moment. I think Michigan State certainly could play their way into it. I mean, we'll see next Friday when Michigan State hosts Michigan, and it's kind of their first true, big test of the back half of the schedule of Big Ten play. That is, they failed the test at Nebraska, so they'll have another big challenge coming up with Michigan. But those would be the two teams I'd probably say are the favorites. But wouldn't be surprised if it's Nebraska. Wouldn't be surprised if it's Michigan State or Illinois for that matter.
Well, Nebraska right now is 14-0. Michigan State at 12-2. And then Michigan has one loss right now. So Nebraska, correct me if I'm wrong here. Sam Hoiberg, wasn't he a Spartan? Wasn't he on the Michigan State roster a couple years ago or no?
There's two Hoibergs. There was one that played for Michigan State, and obviously this is one who plays for Nebraska now. The one who plays for Nebraska now, if that's Sam, he is not. He never played at Michigan State. Okay. He was always at Nebraska.
His brother
both are obviously. It was his brother then who played at Michigan State.
And Hoiberg had open heart surgery, the coach.
Yes.
And he was the Iowa State coach, right, before that. And he was an NBA player, and Izzo loves him. And Izzo loves Sam Hoiberg. And he loved the other Hoiberg on his team because he was just that consummate teammate guy. Didn't get a ton of minutes. Are the games really good when Barry Sanders' kid gets in the game?
Typically, no. That's a sign that Michigan State has put the game away.
But a
Nick
fan
Sanders,
favorite, though, right?
Yes. Oh, yes, of course. Well, it's just like when, a few years ago, Steven Izzo, right, was Tom's son. Whenever he came in the game, the fans were always excited because the game was typically out of hand at that point, but also they always wanted to see him find a bucket. So now it's Nick Sanders, Barry's son.
Like in my era, we used to light up Victory cigars. Now it's when you put in Barry Sanders' kid. That's the time to celebrate. But it's Barry Sanders' kid, 5'11", 185 pounds. Barry was 5'8", 205 pounds, and he's athletic as heck though. He gets up on the rim and dunks and all that stuff. But he went to Michigan State to play basketball and wanted to play for Tom Izzo. So that's like this team really intrigues me because I think it's sustainable because of the chemistry thing. And that's an Izzo-built thing where Michigan might struggle a little bit with all those moving parts of the transfer portal guys getting in and out of sync. And so that'll be interesting. Next Friday we'll tell the tale. Not this Friday, but next Friday at MSU. And that's going to be a national spotlight classic.
No, it will. I agree 100% with what you're saying that, these teams that are built through the portal, while they may have star power and they may have the flashiness and quite frankly may be very good, like Michigan is, you do wonder when we get to March or, late February and we get even, like you said, next Friday night in a hostile Breslin Center because that place will be bouncing. Do you, if you haven't been through it together before, how do you react to it? Michigan certainly has played some, road games and played some tough games already, so it won't be their first time on the road. But I would be shocked if this group has played a more tougher environment than what they'll get at the Breslin next week. And, if they come in and they hit their shots and they, come away with a big win on the road, then that will probably silence a lot of doubt of, is this team connected or is this team going to be good enough to win it all? Because that would be a marquee win. And if Michigan State can win that game, it'll show that, hey, maybe their ceiling's a little higher than I personally think, and maybe the nation at this point. I mean, that would be an opportunity for Michigan State to say, hey, we're not just, a Sweet 16 or Elite 8 team. We're Final Four. We're national title contenders. So I'm counting down the days to it. Obviously, we can't, look over the next few games. I think they got Oregon tomorrow night. They got a game against Maryland, and then I think road trip to Rutgers ahead of that battle with Michigan next Friday. But, Michigan State will probably be double-digit favorites in all three of those games, if not, still heavily favored. They take care of business. We're looking at a monster matchup next week.
And Michigan has got Indiana next Tuesday at home, Ohio State at home, and then Nebraska on that Tuesday, the 27th, and Michigan State on the 30th. So that'll tell a lot about that U of M team before they come into East Lansing That game will be on Fox TV on a Friday night at 8 p.m. That's replacing football. That's like really cool. Friday night. That's like really cool. So
yeah, no, that'll be a fun one. And I honestly I hadn't looked at the Michigan schedule too far ahead, but that Nebraska game that Tuesday before could, that'll be a monster challenge for them too. So that combined with the road trip to Michigan State, they have a tough week ahead of them, and maybe that'll benefit the Spartans on Friday night if Nebraska can wear them down a little bit earlier in the week.
It's going to really be interesting to see if Nebraska can sustain. Well, they're undefeated, so they're sustaining it already.
Yeah.
It's like crazy good, man. It's like Miami. Miami of Ohio out of the Mid-American Conference is like 18-0 right now, and they're just telling the national voters, don't blame us for being in the MAC. We're 18-0. So give us our our props. And so undefeated. It doesn't lie. Very hard in the 2000s. Especially the 2020s, for anybody to go undefeated in any sport right now because of the portal and because of how things have transpired with building rosters. That's unbelievable. That's really unbelievable. So keep an eye on Nebraska, undefeated. If you're a sports fan, keep an eye on Miami of Ohio at 18-0. How did they play 18 games already? Man, I don't know how they got. I think they're way up there. I think I just saw that today. So.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. I think Michigan State's 16-2, so they played 18 as well.
There we go.
So it does. They all kind of do. It's funny because the way the college football schedule is. Right now we have the Indiana-Miami national championship game going on in mid-January. You almost kind of forget about college basketball because football.
It's too late. So they got to move it. They want to move the finals to January 1 and then work the schedule backwards into August and maybe take the conference championship games out of there, because they're going to eventually go to the best 12 teams. It's not going to stay at 12. So it's going to be they'll get to 24. And they're going to take the best teams and put them in the tournament. And go from there. So, are you watching? Am I taking you away from the football game right now?
No, you're not. You're not at all. I have it on the background. I saw that Indiana was winning, but I have not.
3-0.
Really locked in.
3-0 with 2 minutes and 27 seconds to go. Miami has the ball, 3rd and 10 at their own 26. So it's turned into a defensive struggle, which keeps Miami in the ball game because Indiana's so good on offense. But not today. Carson Beck 2 for 6 for 9 yards. Fernando Mendoza 6 for 9 for 62 yards. So neither team's running the ball. A lot of punts on both sides, field position. So it's turning into I was just shocked. Number one, I can't say Indiana Hoosiers and think football. I just can't because that says basketball all over it. And I just can't believe they blew out Oregon because Oregon was so damn good. And they made them look really pedestrian. So obviously a lot of talent with a lot of guys from James Madison, a sprinkle of Notre Dame guys, more transfer.
Mm-hmm.
What do you like the transfer portal for your business for let's say Big Ten basketball? Maybe you can expand it to all sports in general, but do you like the portal action or is it aggravating?
As a fan, I enjoy it. And as a writer as well, because it gives us a lot to talk about and a lot to digest. It's a lot of movement. It's with football and basketball too. It's gonna be basketball. It's in the spring, obviously after the season wraps up. But it reminds me a lot of the NBA free agency, in the summer, right? And that's always kind of a big deal of it's a full year round sport because you have so much movement and you get to go add this guy and then you add this guy and whatever. But my also, down deep college football, let's just say, heart also, it pains me that, you see a guy, you develop a guy, and then all of a sudden he's going to your rival, for instance, down the street. So it's kind of, a double-edged sword because I love it for, the movement. You can turn around a program quicker. You can, in Michigan State's instance, right? They could go from being, a team that hasn't made a bowl game in 4 years to who knows if they hit in the portal, they could be, pretty darn good next year. But it also does kind of, sucked in the same ways that, you're losing your best receiver, Nick Marsh, to Indiana, who's, playing for the national championship right now, or, you lost your running back.
He's at the game. Nick Marsh is at the damn game in Miami. It's like, makes you sick.
It's wild. It's wild. So it's like,
he earned his way out, though. He gave us two good years, played injured, and it was going downhill. And so he's an elite, he's an NFL wide receiver, and he deserved. I should be a traditionalist, and I like it for the players if they want an opportunity somewhere else to be able to do that. And so I like that. I mean, I think it's fair to the players, and that's been lost in the shuffle over the last couple decades.
No, I totally agree. And I think the big thing, too, that a lot of people get upset about is all the money being thrown around. And I'd ask you, or I would say to anyone, anytime someone brings that up, I say, well, do you realize how much money these universities and programs are making off these players before they got paid? It's actually what they're making is just a drop in the bucket when you hear that, the Big Ten schools signed a $2 billion contract with Fox a couple of years ago, and each school is making over hundreds of $millions out of it. So, it's really to me, I'm happy the players get paid now. I'm happy they have the ability to move. Now, I wish there was a little bit more structure to it because, for instance, it was on Friday, I think, when the portal was about to close.
Yeah.
We saw Duke lose their starting quarterback, right?
Right at the 11th hour.
Right.
Yep.
Final hour. He had said it like a week before, I believe, or put a video out, hey, I'm coming back.
Yep.
And then, the rumor is that it's Miami who is, struck out on all of their options in the portal. And now they're like, last hour, we're going to go steal a conference rival's quarterback for tampering. So, I mean, I don't blame the kid. Go get more money. You deserve it. You go do what's going to help you out, your family out. But it does kind of, suck for those fans of Duke now because, A, you lost your starting quarterback who's pretty darn good, and then B, you don't really have a way to go find a new one because it's in the last hour right at the portal closing. So it's a double-edged sword, really.
Yeah, it left him in a bind. I think he had his NIL deal sealed with Duke and everything, and then a better deal came along. The bad thing is that Duke didn't get a chance just before the portal closed to get one to replace him. So that's the game, and that's the ugly side of it. You could argue Carson Beck going to Miami was a little under the table. Nothing's under the table. Everything's above the table. So he went to – who would have thought a Georgia guy would go to Miami? I mean, why? Georgia, you're going to get there with Georgia. But no, they got options. So that's the beauty of it. And we'll see where it goes. 3-0. Indiana's 4th and 10 at their own 27 and have to punt. And it's the end of the first quarter. So that not the first half, first quarter. So we're good. Good game. End of the first quarter. A lot of stuff happens in second quarters. A lot of stuff happens in second quarter. I don't think it'll be. What do you have a score prediction for this game or no?
Well, I did think it was going to be low scoring. Right. I didn't. I think the over-under was, 46, 47 for those who were betting it. So I thought it was going to be on the underside just because unless Miami, makes some critical mistakes, Indiana, has done a really good job of forcing, like you mentioned, that Oregon game last week. If Miami plays a relatively clean game, their defensive line and offensive line is good enough to keep them in it. So I kind of thought it was going to be, 23-17, 23-20 kind of game. And we're looking at it right now. If I had to pick, I know we're in the middle of the game right now, I still lean Indiana. But this I will say, this is the type of tempo or the type of game that Miami wanted to play, right? Miami leans on you, and they're gonna the way that offensive line's built and the mindset that team has, they're gonna lean on you, kind of like what Michigan football was like a couple years ago when they won their title, and then eventually in that third, fourth quarter they pop one. So it's gonna, this is exactly I think the script Miami had for the game. We'll see if they can get enough offense mustered up though, because Indiana's defense is no joke either. And, we're picking quarterbacks. I'm taking Mendoza over Carson Beck. Not that Carson Beck's, chopped liver, but I would rather have the Heisman winner over Beck. So it'll be interesting. I'm just glad it's close. I feared that we could see Indiana come out and it's, 14-0 after the first quarter. And it's like, well, I don't even need to watch the rest of the game. I was hoping we would get a good game at the minimum.
That Oregon game got up to like 24-0 really fast, and that was like, holy cow. So Michigan State men's basketball will play tomorrow night, Tuesday night, at 9 o'clock on Fox Sports 1 out in Oregon. In Michigan State, ranked number 10 in the country right now. Robert Bondy covering everything for the sport. Where can people find you on social media?
So I'm just Robert Bondy 5 on X or Twitter, formerly known as Twitter. So you can find me on that. I occasionally will post stories or thoughts on that or retweet things that I agree with. But and then I do write, like you said, for Spartans Wire. You can always find our work at SpartansWire.com.
How can people subscribe to that?
So we do have an online subscription. If you come to the site, I believe in the top right corner is where it used to be. There's a button you can subscribe, and then you'll get the email blast daily. So that always brings in all of our content. But we're a site that is always posting new things, opinion pieces, breaking news, etc. Right? So it's always updated. There's always something, whether it's football, hockey, basketball. Obviously, Michigan hockey's off to a great start this year too. So. There's always something. And the women's basketball team, too, is also, I know, playing really well right now. So a lot going on when it comes to Michigan State sports.